Sorry, guys. We're definitely
Hi, Laurie.
I'm having some glitchy time here. Fun times. Woohoo. All right, you guys. So sorry about that. Froze up on my monitor too. That's weird. Okay, let's check chat. Can everyone see and hear us?
Yep, they can now.
All right. Sounds good. All right, you guys. Well, welcome everyone to Andromeda 7, your celestial gateway and your channel for community support, help, love, friendship, and knowledge. Thank you all for joining us tonight. It's Friday night and it's time to feed your mind and grow your heart. And we are a group of light workers and like-minded beings here to offer some insight into spiritual ascension and self-development topics. It is our goal to share our knowledge and wisdom to all who wish to receive it. Tonight, we're talking about addictions. Although there are many forms of addiction, we'll be discussing drug and substance abuse, and substance abuse will consume your everyday life. However, the proper tools and the desire and power of self-love, they can be overcome. When you do the work, the changes you will be responsible for are incredible. But only the addicted can make the hard choice to move towards their health and recovery. We all know or have known someone suffering from addiction, and we can only assist with helping them get the help they need. All right. Well, Teresa, I'm going to send it over to you, our co-host with the most, and get going with the show. Sorry for that intro mix-up, but you guys have all seen the trailer, so you're probably tired of seeing it.
Yeah.
It's all good. Oh,
Should I start with a chat room shout out?
You can do whatever you want.
We have enough folks?
Yep.
We have enough folks in here now.
So,
yep. Greetings to Brother Lucky Stone. It's good to have you.
Hey, Lucky.
Beloved Abstract. I'm glad you keep coming back. Steve Bow.
Hi,
always
Steve.
A pleasure to see you and spend time with you. We also have, let's see, Jackie J. It's a pleasure to have you, and thank you for your public comment.
Yeah. Thanks,
on the show trailer. Really appreciate that, and thanks to you too, Steve, for the compliment on the show trailer videos, because we do spend a great deal of time on those, and Laurie in particular. So we really appreciate getting that feedback. Scotty boy, good to see you as always. Behave yourself. No, I'm just kidding. Don't behave yourself. You're more fun when you're just yourself. There you go. That's the whole point of tonight. Elizabeth Bowers, good to see you. Grandpa Brian's daughter. It's a pleasure to have you. And let's see, who else have I got? If I'm missing anybody.
Barbara. Hi, Barbara.
Barbara's here? Okay.
I loved her comments. Yep.
Barry, Squirrel Buddy. Squirrel Buddy's here.
Hi, Barry Chad.
From his rural haven, his little piece of heaven. Let's see. Chloe. Hi, Chloe. Love you. Great moderator, Miss Chloe. Always helping everybody in the chat room.
Yes, she is. I'm going to include her link in the chat room here. I'm going to go ahead and post this. If you guys seriously want the best crystals and the best customer service, I'm not kidding. I love her stuff. Yeah, I'm going to post this for you. Yep. Go ahead, Teresa. Sorry.
No, that's cool.
Here we go. There it is, you guys. Check out her channel. She's got some really good stuff.
Yeah, go over there and sub her if you haven't already. Speaking of channels to sub, before we get into the panel here, Laurie has a reminder for you all, a little housekeeping.
Yeah, so as you all know, there are two channels. The first channel I started was Pure Love Ascension, and that was chronicling my ascension process. And if you're subbed on that channel, please feel free to go to the link, the blue link in the homepage on Pure Love Ascension, and sub to the A7 channel. The Pure Love Ascension is really the backup channel in case anything happens to the other one. But if you would, that would be great. If you want to stay on there, that's fine too. Whatever you want to do, but just wanted to bring it to your attention. Thanks.
That's great. Yeah, that helps us with our Andromeda 7 Celestial Gateway subscriptions if we make sure the folks that are on Pure Love also subscribe over. It helps too with emergency recovery if the channel gets taken down. So, for any reason, even if it's just a technical glitch. So, all right, let me introduce the panel real quick.
Yeah.
And to respond to our friends in chat and those who listen on a regular basis, we haven't heard anything from Dalibor in quite some time. He was dealing with some health issues. So we'll let you know if we hear anything, okay? So what we have here tonight, our guest is Corey from Black Raven Meditation. She's been on our panel many times, as you know. She's our featured speaker tonight because she has years of experience dealing with this topic, and it happens to be one of her callings and gifts, and has a lot to do with what she does for a living. And so she's the right person at the right time to have this discussion. And so we thank you for making yourself available and bringing the topic to the table.
Having me.
Looking forward, because you have a lot of expertise in this, and it shows with your products and services. So,
and just to let you know, all her link information is in the description for you folks. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. If you go to her website, you'll see how to connect with her in various different ways. So make sure you go to her homepage on her website and you can see how to contact her. If anyone out there wants to recommend anyone to her or wants to contact her directly about any of the services she provides, you'll get it off of her website. Okay. And welcome back, our fire and water. And we have a new nickname for you. Yeah, we have a new nickname for Nick and Jazz.
Our adorables.
Laurie.
Our adorables.
Is that the nickname, the adorables?
Yeah, you guys, I call you the adorables.
Oh, I
Are
like
we waiting
it.
on the adorables?
Yeah. And welcome Grandpa Brian from your cabin.
Yeah.
He's going to have a big retreat this weekend. Folks from All My Relations, right? Will be joining you. Nick and Jazz too, probably, right? So give our best to Heather and Jim and the crew. We appreciate them. We know a lot of them watch the program, so it's really nice. So, all right. Well, with that, I'll bounce it back to Laurie for some opening remarks, and then she can head it off with.
I've actually made the remarks. We're good to go. So let's just get to it with Corey. Corey, I know when you and I were speaking, and we were kind of talking about the show and how we were going to go over it, I was really interested in your story about the addiction that you went through when you were younger, and that you had, kind of broke down and had a conversation with God. And I wondered if you wouldn't mind just kind of telling us about that, because you're really speaking from experience here. And also that the kind of work that you do, you're helping a lot of people with addictions. So I think it's really incredible that you come from a space where you know the ins and outs of addiction, and you know what it's like to be, to have that sobriety. But can you tell us a little bit about that story? Because I thought it was just a fascinating story.
Yes, of course. Thank you. And I'm going to do my best to kind of nutshell it as best as I can. Basically, I was born to two meth addicts. My family, other than them, were drinkers, heavy drinkers. So wine and methamphetamine were daily parts of my life. Around 6 years old, I was put on Zoloft and Depakote.
Wow.
And I was switched between, like many people in my situation at that age, switched between dozens of meds over the course of the next 10 years, as well as in and out of institutions. Through the course of that, obviously, when I was about 13, this is probably a big part of the story that is substantial. When I was 13 years old, I was called to the living room and offered methamphetamine by my mother and father. So that started what ended up becoming a daily use of methamphetamine. When I was a little over 18 years old, I had found out that I was pregnant with my daughter, and I literally looked at my OB and I said, I've been strung out for 2 weeks. I can't have a child. And he said, you better stop now. I would love to say that was the last time I ever used. It wasn't. I did quit for the 9 months. And basically, once I had finished breastfeeding, opiates became a pretty heavy thing in my life. Depression hit me after the birth of my child and all these things. So I spent probably about another 7 years in heavy opiate addiction. And then one day I was done. I could not bear the fact of waking up that next morning and doing it anymore. And I laid on my floor begging God for mercy. I mean, just screaming, just begging for mercy. And I had come to the reality within myself that tonight, either I had to die or I had to figure out how I was going to live. And as I laid on that floor, and I remember feeling myself just kind of surrendering to death because I really thought that was the only option left.
Wow.
I heard what I call a voice of God, right? A fisher. I heard a voice of God come to me and say, little one, nobody's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. It's time to get up. And I felt overcome by the sense of grace and that tomorrow could be different. And I got up and I have worked every single day since then to take every step I needed along the path to maintain my sobriety. Because the interesting thing about addiction is it's the getting sober is that much of it. And there's so much that goes to the after part of it. And if we don't handle the after part of it, that addiction will just come back. I'm very grateful to say that at 7 years, I stopped counting. I was able, from my perspective, to release myself from the label of addict. It is a part of my story, but it is no longer who I am, and I do not carry it with me. And because of that, every day when I get up in the morning, I don't think, oh, I'm not going to seek today, or I'm not going to this. I get up, I put a smile on my face, and I have a great day, right? And that has been the one of the biggest graces through it all. The secondary grace is because I grew up in a family that was surrounded with addicts and addiction. I was really able to turn what I went through, because I went to 14 failed rehabs, by the way.
Wow.
I ended up taking myself out to the woods, and that's how I got sober, because I couldn't do it with rehabs. It just was not working for me. So I was able to really turn that process, my own process in recovery and my own process in healing, turn it around and offer it back out to the world in a way that has proven to be very beneficial.
What was your experience with rehab, and what is that like for many of us that don't understand what goes on in a rehab situation? What does a drug addict expect when they go into a facility or a system like that?
It's a great question. Unfortunately, many of the things that they may experience is dehumanization. So basically, right when you walk in the door, a lot of times, most people who come into rehab aren't there because they want to be. Most of them are there because they're tethered, which basically means they have a court case, and it's either there or prison. So I was one of the very few ones who walked in because I wanted assistance, and then that's a very different too. But the environment itself, it's just very clinical, right? When you walk in, you lose all your rights. You don't get to leave. You could be 80 years old and you don't get to walk out the door anymore. You lose that right as a human to choose where your next steps go. And it's dehumanizing. It takes away people's power. And in a time, addiction is one of those things that subtly and very slowly takes our power. And I really feel the last thing that people need when they go and say, I'm here for help, is for someone to say, you know what, I'm just going to steal that last little bit from you. I find it to be one of the most detrimental things that we do to people in rehab. But you'll also find in rehab, they will take you off all the street meds that you know.
Yes.
They will respond to your body. They will put you on a laundry list of brand new meds that you won't be able to afford most of the time when you leave there.
And
Wow.
they'll take your belt.
They take
They'll
your
take
belt.
your-
Sometimes they take your shoestrings,
shoestrings,
your
fingernail
hair,
clippers. Yep.
all the things. If you want to shave, you have to be watched.
Yep.
And there are facilities that are getting better. I was very grateful that I got to work in a newer facility. So we actually let people, I called it a free range rehab is what I called it, the one I worked at. So none of the doors were locked other than to like go into their room, and they had a keypad for that, but they could walk out the front door anytime they wanted to. They didn't have to stay there.
Yeah.
There was a kitchen that they were able to access 24 hours a day. And that was a little more beneficial, I felt.
Mm-hmm.
I saw more progress there than any other place. That was your standard development of what most rehabs are.
So, how much time did you spend in the rehab center before you were released? What kind of block of time are we talking here?
So the first time my parents put me in rehab, I was 14 years old. I
Mhm.
spent 2 months in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first month was no contact with family or friends. So it was just me in there. And most of them were around about the same time. I've tried longer ones. I ended up running.
Mm-hmm.
And then to do less is almost, it's almost more
So,
harmful because people get sober and then they go back out on the street and they'll
right.
often
And it's
relapse.
kind of a vicious circle.
Yes.
They
Go ahead, Teresa.
Starlight, and sounds like a prison. Sounds like they want you to depend on the system. It seems that way at first, and I checked myself in, and then regretted it immediately within 3 days, and I wanted to find many ways out of there.
Yes.
If you're going to be a harm to yourself or others, they want to make sure you can at least have some place to go and that you have someone to watch over you. But the whole purpose of the rehab program is not to make you feel dependent on their system, but start learning how to depend on yourself to be whole. And we'll get to that in a little bit.
I'd say that would be the optimal thing, but the reality is when you work in the system, you'll see that it's actually just set up as a revolving door to fill a bed.
Yes.
And that's just, you don't have to like it, but that is the truth of the facilities, no matter what facility you work at.
So how were you affected by that experience in rehab?
I started Black Raven meditation.
Aha. So you found an outlet in
Yes,
that.
because there was too many gaps. There was too many gaps in all the things that I saw. And, I was really blessed because I was granted space to do 12-step Buddhism programs. And even though what I taught, they didn't get credit for with the court systems, they still chose to use my program because they had done the NA and AA before.
So you actually worked in the system and you were helping others once you got out of rehab and turned your life around.
Oh, yeah. So I went to work. I guess I forgot this part. So I actually went to work at a high intensity detox center. So it was the first 21 days off the streets.
Gotcha.
So there I was a counselor, an RA, we all did everything there. You work there, you do everything there.
Yeah. What kind of advice could you give someone who's either going through an addiction right now and really, really, truly wants the help, or someone who's watching someone else go through the addiction? What could you tell them? What are the first steps to take, and how would you go about getting the help you need? I think a lot of people just don't know where to turn or how to make that happen. What could you do? What could you tell them about that?
I would like to touch on the loved one of the addict first, because this one is one that often gets murky in it. If you are the loved one of someone who is an addict, actively in addiction, or working their way through recovery, the best thing that you can do is get yourself healthy enough so that when they decide to get sober, that you are in the best place possible to receive them back into your life. Because the unfortunate reality is if the addict gets help and the loved one doesn't get help, well, we're often, what we see is we'll send the addict in and then both people are back at it again. And now we have to start the whole process over, right? Because it's just that vicious cycle. But if we can help a loved one to understand, you can never love your addict enough to get them sober. You have to get it in your head. You have to get that in your head. It has nothing to do with love. They've lost that love for themselves. It has nothing to do with you. So love yourself, be the display. And like I said, just be the best that you can be. So whenever you do see them, you're not focusing on the pity party for them. You're just like, hey, did you eat today? Let's go eat. You know, you can treat them like a regular human. That's the best thing you can do for anyone who's in addiction or going through recovery, is treat them like every other human.
So that self-love begins with the basics.
Yes.
Eating properly, sleeping well, getting off the drugs.
Well, for the drug addicts, so switching that into the drug addict part, most people are addicted. So for me, in my experience, drug addiction is an external seeking of an internal need for self-regulation. Okay, so this could be Facebook, this could be TV, this could be your soda pop that you drink 12 of a day, drugs, anything, tapping your pen until you annoy the shit out of your neighbor. These are all addictions, right? Because it's an external need for something to self-regulate ourselves. So for someone who's moving through that process from addiction into recovery, self-regulate, breathe, baby. You got to breathe. You know, don't pick up that phone for 10 minutes. You know, don't think about that I can't have drugs for 5 years. Just think, I don't have to pick up that phone to make that call for 5 minutes. I'm just going to sit here for 5 minutes and I'm going to be with this discomfort and I'm going to see what that feels like, right? And do it 5 minutes at a time. I did it 10 seconds at a time. People in NA and AA, they say 20, day at a time. And I would literally be like, no, we got to get
minute by minute.
Because I can't do a whole 24 hours yet. I'm not there.
I hear you.
Yeah.
How did you find that self-love? What was it that really allowed you to go in and just find the self-love?
I've been very graced to have a lot of wonderful people around me who believed in me, even when, I'm getting a little emotional, even when there was nothing to believe in. From my perspective, but these people believed in me. And, I feel the one thing that I can do in this world is not give up for every single person who's ever believed in me. Even if that's the only thing I can do today is not give up.
So it motivated you. Those people that really cared about you gave you the motivation. Wow, if these people really care about me, maybe I could do the same.
Well, and not only that, but they displayed to me a life that I didn't know before. I grew up with 2 meth heads, I mean, I didn't know what self-regulation was. I didn't know what regular meals were. I did things that everybody else sees as common. I didn't know I was supposed to know something,
Yeah, so you get an education.
Yes, that was a very difficult place to start.
This cycle over here behind me aren't even aware that this is a cycle.
Yes.
So those rehab programs help you break it down so that you can understand the science behind it and how it's affecting your body, your relationships, and your inner understanding of your own self-respect.
Maybe. And also we have to be mindful that NA and AA, their success rate, and by the way, they make up their own success rate. They're the ones that report it. Okay. Their success rate is 7 to 11%.
Yeah, there's people,
and they are the ones that report that success rate. So the reality is most addicts don't want to hear your stories. They don't want to hear about self-love. They don't want to hear any of it. They want people to treat them like a human while they're getting through their stuff. That's it. The chemical part of it. Most of them can't even sit still long enough to be able to process that stuff. might be
Right,
with
right.
drugs,
So
right?
so a breakdown of understanding that of what they're going through at this level doesn't talk about any of that. It educates them on, and that's what happened to me. It educated me on, I get triggered, then I go into um, cravings because I want to satisfy the need. So they teach you how to break that down in such a way that you can understand what you're going through. Now, the drug addicts and the people that were hooked on meth in my neighborhood, they can't even think clearly enough to understand the basics.
And
That's
now
what you're saying.
Yeah, and now we're seeing drugs like Trank, which is a brand new drug that's on the street. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's literally eating holes through people. If you think you're going to put someone like that in a rehab and talk sense into them, that's not going to happen.
No,
It's not going to
no.
happen.
Yeah. I wanted to ask the panel, Jasmine, Nick, have you guys experienced drug addiction yourselves? Speak on it if you'd like, or someone that you know. Have you dealt with this at all?
Yeah, we both have some stories. Yeah, but her volume might hit our volume.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're good. Okay. So the I haven't had that experience. I think that the most, because addiction to me can be anything, not just drugs. It could also be like video games. It could also be, um, like Cora was saying, like tapping your pen. Anything that you go to as a regulator, but it has control over you. I feel like that's when it's an imbalance. So I mean, I guess I had that with coffee. I mean, there was a time in my life when I drank a bunch of NyQuil just because I was happier being asleep than I was being awake. So I
Mm-hmm.
took a NyQuil. Um, but then my brother ended up hiding the NyQuil. I did have my brother who was an addict that I didn't realize was an addict, but I would notice things. And then once I found out, I'm like, to me, and you can clarify this, Cora, I felt um, like I was in danger because like every time I tried to read him or be like what was going, because he would flip on an instant. Like he would go from like being okay to
Mm-hmm.
like fully enraged and like busting the walls. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? Um, so I just felt like I don't know what I'm dealing with. I don't know if you're selling things. I don't know if anyone's gonna show up to the house. It was just a really big unknown because I wasn't exposed to all that stuff. Um, but other than that, that I did what Core said not to do. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
Core at the time, but it was more of like I was showering him with love, being as accepting as possible, telling him that he was in a safe place, telling him that, I loved him no matter what, that, you know, that he didn't have to do this, that we could go to a psychologist, we can go here, we can go there, we can do this, we can do that. But it never really went anywhere. It was like I learned that no matter how much I loved him, that it didn't matter. It wasn't on me. It wasn't my decision. It was his. So
Mm-hmm.
that's as far as I have gone through it.
And he was convinced nothing was wrong with him.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
convinced. He
Yeah.
he was more upset that I couldn't accept his outbursts as being part of him. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you're putting me in danger. You literally almost ran the car through the house, and you think that's okay? So it was
Mm-hmm.
just it's a hard line because it's like I do love this person. I do want what's best for them, but if they're not, I couldn't. I was the only working adult in a house full of 3 adults and 10 cats, and I ended up messing up my back supporting everybody, and that almost left me paralyzed for an entire year until I saw acupuncture, and I had to start making decisions to protect myself. So
Yeah. Did you want to speak on that, Nick?
I actually experienced that whole situation firsthand because I'm the one that kicked him out.
I know that
Because
feeling.
we went to this was during our road trip to Mount Shasta, and
Mm-hmm.
like when we came back, he was turning her house into a trap house. I was born in the hood. I know everything that goes on about stuff like that. She was oblivious to it, so obviously being the only guy that was having her back, I had to do what I had to do. So I threw all their stuff out, and I showed them that they weren't welcome there. But due to laws, they were able to come back because
Mm-hmm.
Rick was technically a resident there, and he can invite whoever he wanted. So we had to do an emergency eviction. During that whole process, they stole a bunch of stuff, and let's just say it was last year August when that happened. We're still recovering, fixing it because of
Mm-hmm.
how much of a damage it was.
Yeah.
Now,
And you had the strength to do it. And that's, believe it or not, that's what the addict needed, was someone to just say, that is enough. We're not going to put up with that anymore.
yeah,
You may do that to yourself, but you're not going to bring that into my home and do that to me.
exactly.
And I
Now,
think that's amazing.
yeah. Now, for my personal experiences, most of it happened while I was a kid. So I was surrounded by people that were addicted with alcohol, pills, and weed mostly in my nuclear family. My outer family, they were on even harder stuff like heroin and meth and all that crazy stuff. So I tried to stay away
Mm-hmm.
from them as much as possible. One of my siblings was a drug dealer at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people OD and die, like in my face, because that's just common in the projects. Like you're going to see that happen. You're going to see someone get shot. Like it was like a weekly thing. It got to a point where it was like, oh, it just happens. That's the environment I live in. You get numb to it, basically.
Yeah.
So I didn't turn to that stuff. I was always like defiant to a T when it
Mm-hmm.
came to that stuff because I didn't want to turn into that. But other addictions got to me in the process. I got really addicted to video games and sex.
Mm-hmm.
I would use video games as an outlet to just tune it all out, especially since it was happening at my house.
Yep.
And then I used sex to compensate the isolation that it was causing me because just imagine everyone everyone around you is using some type of extreme vice, and you can see how it's like killing them or making them go crazy and stuff like that. You like refusing, yeah, you become very lonely very quickly. So when you see these pieces of art come out, you're like, oh yeah, we want you. Yeah, it's gonna make you feel a type of way. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I use that as a coping mechanism since I was a teen. Luckily, um the state, I got help from the state, and I went to the therapy and all that. So I was able to regulate the sex part. But even with tech, I mean, even on this show, you'll see me like on my phone. It's not as bad as it used to be, but I still have the habit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it kept me out of trouble. So I mean, like there's worse things to get addicted to, but it's still an addiction at the end of the day. Like Jasmine says, you can get addicted to anything. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if it's hardcore drugs or something like coffee. Like you're going,
Yeah.
if you don't watch yourself, you're going to get addicted to it. Like I used to smoke pot, and there was a point in my life where like I was doing it regularly enough to where my body was starting to salivate from it. So as soon as I noticed that, I already had the training. I cut it off until my body stopped reacting that way.
Cold
So
turkey.
usually if you see a visceral reaction from your body,
Mm-hmm.
that's usually like the first steps of addiction. So if you can catch it, then it's a lot easier to not become dependent of certain things like that. So my advice is that because there's a lot of people that are just screwed and thrown into an environment like that because that's just the way it is. You know, the freaking government turns you dependent by having a bunch of kids, and then people that don't really want kids, they're just doing it so they can survive. You get thrown in poverty, and you have to experience that dark side of life. And you're a kid, so you're screwed. You have to. It's forced upon you until you're
Mm-hmm.
18, and you can do something about it. So that's why a lot of people just end up dying or in jail. And so, like, the best thing I can tell to people that are in a situation like that now, if you are, is to keep your head down, and you just gotta bear it. You gotta find different outlets. You don't have to find unhealthy outlets. There's plenty of indoor introverted style activities you can keep yourself occupied until you become of age and get out of that environment. You don't have to expose yourself to it. It's if you're into energy work, it's a lot easier to do because like I started diving into this stuff around 13 when I was
Mm-hmm.
like going through it because I was just trying to figure out ways to like not get caught in that trap that the system makes for so many people. And I was all over the place at the time, but it was enough.
Yeah.
I knew enough at that point where I could actually utilize it to my advantage, and it helped
Hmm.
somewhat.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Nick,
video games is definitely what.
how I want to ask you a question. How did your spirituality help you? Were you spiritual before,
So I was
after?
having psychic. Yeah, I was having psychic phenomenon happen to me
Hmm.
as early as like I want to say a toddler, where like I would literally look at something and an object would move, and then my vision would get blurry, or I'd get dizzy and almost faint, stuff like that, or I would start hearing sound that's coming from nowhere. To a point,
Hmm.
it got so like loud one time, it knocked everything down on the bathroom, and someone thought I had a speaker in the bathroom. They charged me, they're like, "What's happening? Why?" And then no device that could make sound was in there. So my parent was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're both hearing things. Let's leave it at that because they're
Yeah.
not going to get it, especially when they're doped up." Like,
How did you
but
find the strength to just like stop it and say, I got to make some changes and I got to do it now? And you're fighting the addiction, you're fighting the way your body's going through it. How did the spirituality aspect of yourself give you the strength? Do you think it gave you the strength to get
it,
past
I
it,
wouldn't. I wouldn't say it gave me the strength. I think my
or the
rebellious side
understanding?
is what gave me
Okay.
the strength. I
Hmm.
think the spirituality is what gave me direction
There you
and
go.
a goal to focus on, knowing that there's something more than just this, because a lot of people get stuck in that environment. It's like, well, this is it, this is life, and then they give up immediately, and they fall into a depth of despair that is very, very hard to dig out. I know because I digged
Mhm.
out of it. I've been there, done that. I was diagnosed with chronic depression at one point.
Mhm.
I don't take Zoloft anymore. I'm not. It's gone. Like,
Stuff
Yeah.
is
trust me.
Yeah.
But
nasty.
Hmm.
yeah,
Wow.
but
Thank you.
but yeah, it's the direction, knowing that there was something more, knowing the fact, and then learning the tools that I can manifest my reality. It doesn't matter how dark it gets, I can pull myself out if I choose to pull myself out. No one's going to do it for me. I can do it myself, and it's up to me, no matter what stage of life I'm in. You
Right.
have support, but at the end of the day, you yourself have to do it. You got to learn how to walk into that inner power. So with that mixed with I found some teachers online that helped me out. One the biggest influencer, his name was Scott Armstrong, and he's from California. He gave me a bunch of puzzle pieces from a puzzle I was already making. And I was able to run with it, and that's when I really started kicking off. And now I'm actually proactive doing it, like here on the show.
Hmm.
So Hermeticism also, that's why it's like very close to me, because like when I was in that hiatus, um I had two hiatuses. That was my kid one. The next one I lost everything because my family screwed me over. My aunt lost her job because our grandma died, so she went to a depression. She was my roommate at the time, and the next thing I know, um, all the lights turn off when I wake up, and it's like in the middle of winter. I'm like, what? My fucking grandpa's in freaking 30-degree weather for like a whole 24 hours. I can't get contact over what the hell's going on. Well, it turns out she lost her job, had no money, wasn't paying her side of the bills, like she was telling me she was doing. So everything got cut off. So I had to like drop 1,500 to compensate for that, and then I just cut them out. I had to. I wasn't, because like at the same time, I got cheated on. I lost my job. My cat died. Um, yeah, and then on top of that, she was my grandma, so she died too. So I was going through all of this. I was like, oh, I'm done. It's a hard reset. I've been here before. I know what this is about to be. So during COVID was my second hiatus, when I got to sit down, apply everything I learned already, and I started knowing what to search for. And that's when I found Hermeticism as the master key that I use, along with some other books like The Strangest Secret, the 30-Day Challenge. That one helped me a lot. Or
Hmm.
Feeling is the Secret. That's another really good one. I can always recommend a bunch of books. Like I'm very knowledgeable in this stuff. But so once I use that, I got myself another treasure that I realized that I wouldn't say neglecting. It's just I didn't realize it at the time, because I was so like on survival mode. But I had genuine friends. Even through all this hell that I was enduring, I actually had one of the few treasures that is one of the most rarest things on this planet, and that is genuine people on your side that love you unconditionally. So I used my leadership skills, that I started unlocking from past lives, and I got us all out of the hood. Unfortunately, one of us died during the process, but it is what it is.
Mhm.
I wish we all would have gotten out, but yeah, everything happens for a reason. For some reason, he has to be on the other side.
Yeah. Right. Wow,
So
Nick.
I believe one of my things in life is I'm supposed to talk about this stuff because I am an example of the odds are stacked against you
Mhm.
to where it looks like there's no chance, but I made the chance happen. I got out of it. Some people in my life don't believe that because they're traumatized, they're still in the past. But I did, and
Mhm.
I'm open to talk about it. And I feel like that
Awesome.
helps people that are going through it right now, along with people that already went through it and don't know how to express it. So I think that's one of the key
Exactly.
things I'm supposed to be doing. So that's why
Yep.
I'm grateful that you guys give me voice on this show to share.
And we're grateful to hear it. Thank you, Nick and Jasmine,
Yeah.
for sharing that. That was
Thank
incredible.
you.
I'd like to
Appreciate
get
that.
to Grandpa Brian. Yeah, thanks for having the courage to do that. Grandpa Brian, how about you? Can you speak on this? Are you familiar with this situation yourself?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was an alcoholic till about the age of 30.
Uh-huh.
And I went out one night, and like Teresa, I didn't get in an accident. Don't know how I did not, but I blacked out and drove home.
Wow.
That next morning, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "No more. You can't do this. You're going to kill yourself or you're going to kill someone else, and you cannot live with that on your conscience." So I just quit. I had an aunt that addicted to painkillers. I won't get into that because I don't want a strike against this channel. So I'll just leave that at that.
Mm-hmm.
We all kind of know how that all gets started.
Yeah.
Sure.
And one of my cousin's sons OD'd on heroin.
Wow.
And, you got to look, drugs aren't nothing new. Heroin, cocaine, all that have been around for thousands and thousands of years. And people have been addicted to it. Some people are coming back because they have never learned to beat that addiction. So it's a karmic cycle. They have to go back to that again to learn how to beat that addiction. You got your finger up, Teresa?
I knew that
No.
was going to be an issue for
Oh,
you.
no.
Oh,
Oh, that's
I thought
funny.
about that.
oh, you
That's
had your
what
hand right there, and
Johnny
I thought
Boy
it was your
probably
finger.
meant.
Hello.
That is hilarious.
That's, you got a really big finger if that's the case.
uh,
Oh,
but
that's
yeah,
fun.
karmic cycles. I mean, there's sometimes reasons why people are addicted to drugs. They have to learn to overcome that because, or it could be that they made fun of someone that was addicted and treat them like shit in a past life. So now they have to experience that in this lifetime. There could be many reasons
You know,
why people are addicted to drugs or alcohol.
do you believe that you may have been a functioning addict there for a while? There are people who are addicted to their whatever they might be addicted to, and they're actually functioning. They may do it after work or on the weekends, but the rest of the time when they're working, they're perfectly fine until they get home and the weekend comes. And were you
Uh,
any of that as well? Just kind of functioning, but and responsible enough to make your living, but yet,
oh yeah, I would go
yeah.
out and party till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and get up and go to work, even though I was feeling like shit.
Hmm.
Hey, it's my fault I'm feeling like shit. I have to work
So
to
would
make that
you
money so I can party tonight
there,
and that
there,
next night.
that's the point I was trying to make. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
awesome. Go ahead. Go
but
ahead, Grandpa Brian.
then again, it came that time where okay, you need to stop doing this because it's
Hmm.
no longer beneficial to you.
So it wasn't really serving you anymore, and you felt like you could make the change. You had the strength to do it.
Right, and I know why they call it spirits because when I drank, a different me came out, and sometimes that different me wasn't very nice.
Hmm.
And I know it was the alcohol that did it because alcohol and drugs change you. It changes who you are because you're no longer really a sovereign being because something else has a hold over you, whether it be drug or alcohol. So you're actually not a sovereign being because you're letting that substance control you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you found, how did you find spirituality? Did that help in any way, or did you find spirituality after your addiction?
After, yeah, quite a few years after, it was just a mindset, just like when I was suffering from depression and I finally came to that, look in that mirror and said, that is not who you are.
And how did that help you? How did your spirituality, did it center you, ground you in a way?
Oh, yes. Well, being a double earth sign, I've always been grounded, but it helped center me more. It helped me really know how I was connected to everything and once I finally really started getting into the spiritualism and going inside and finding out who I truly am. Once you do that, then you're really reaching to that spiritual level, I do believe, because you're going inside and doing the work on yourself and realizing all these things about you that you never really ever knew. And that starts to come forth.
Yeah.
Cora, if you want to speak up, you're on mute. If you want to say something, you're on mute, dear.
She's actually talking to Nick and Jasmine in between this.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you, Grandpa Brian, for sharing
you're
that.
welcome.
I really appreciate that. So Core, you have a system or a program that you've created that helps people. Can you speak on that? And I actually have a copy of it. Would you like me to pull it up for you?
If you like, I have a paper copy here too. If people want to see it, they can. So basically, I started Black Raven Meditation after being a clinician as well as a
Oh Lord.
recover. Like I said, there was too many. So we started Black Raven Meditation. So basically, what we do with Black Raven Meditation is we designed a meditative core work. So basically, it's like those times where if you've ever kind of done a lot of internal work and you still feel like there's something like standing in your way, or maybe you're going through a big transition and you're not sure what the next step is, or if you're in that place where you're going ready to recover. The meditative core work helps empower you in your own body. It helps empower you in your own energetic system, and it helps allow you to release the physical boundaries in the physical body. Because what we find, especially with addicts and anything trauma based, all that stuff gets stuck in your body. And even though we might deal with the emotional and the mental part of it, that if that physical stuff is still stuck in the body, every time that's engaged, this stuff's going to go right back off. So we walk people through the meditative core process, which empowers them in their own process. We walk them through what we call the ABCD method, which is acknowledge, breathe, collaborate, and do, which is a self-regulation tool. And then our third process is basically the biggest support team you've ever had in your life. We will cheerlead you on. You can call me day or night, 3 a.m. It doesn't matter. If you get to a point, you've tried to you've done the self-regulation, you've used the tools, and you're still like, I'm not sure what to do with your hands. You call me, right? So after we let you go that first session, what you're looking at here on the
second page
is aftercare. So a lot of times when we do things where we release energy, it is very important. Anytime you do anything that releases energy, even going to talk to your therapist, if you have a release there, you're still releasing energy, right? Aftercare is so important. So our aftercare, we emphasize the next 3 days. So with the next 3 days, we're gonna, quality of water, and make sure that you're drinking a sufficient amount of water. With all that energy moving, you really need a good palate. And Nick brought up a really great point earlier when he said about getting small. That's one thing substance abuse does. It takes away the body's physical capacity and will actually dehydrate the body down to a molecular level. So when you bring in that water and you really start to build that capacity back up inside of your body, that is 100% something that we aim for in the recovery process. So this will also let you know that, there's certain things that can happen and this is what to do. But what I'd like to talk about as we go down are these questions. So these questions, we don't really teach people to give up anything in addiction. We want to help you create a life that is worth living. So it's always about building those capacities forward. So with this process, it's to kind of just open up your mind. Who am I spending my time with? When I'm with them, does it feel good to me, right? Are we both adding something to this engagement, right? Or are we just getting together to party, right? What am I watching? Am I sitting? Am I trying to get off drugs, but sitting around watching movies where people are shooting up all day? What am I ingesting?
What are you feeding your brain too?
What are you feeding all these parts of yourself? It's not just about what goes in our mouth, is it? It's about all these ingestions, right? And so that's important to be really mindful of as we go through this. And one of the most important questions, I think, whenever I was going through my recovery is almost everything I encountered, I said, is there a way I can do this differently? Because addicts are so good at, we get more addicted to the ritual than we often do the drugs itself. There'll be times that you're waiting around all day for the dealer to call, right? And you're on the floor. And he'll call and say, I'm on my way. You don't have to have the drugs yet. You don't have to anything, but they're on their way. So you get up, you start cleaning that house.
Yeah.
Because that's what addiction does to us, right? So I had to start reframing the rituals in my life. So when I woke up in the morning, the very first thing that I started doing, Nick kind of hit on this a minute ago too, I started working with clay, because with clay, I could use all of my senses. There was no sense that was, my hands, my eyes, my taste, all of it was being utilized while I was working with clay. And that helped keep everything focused enough where I didn't think about using all the time. Or that when I did think about using and I'd say, no, Core, we're just not going to pick up that phone for 10 minutes. I'd go straight into the handwork, into my clay. And before you know it, we're 45 minutes into handwork. And then it's like, I did that, right? So these are really powerful
so it was
things.
Mindful. You're talking about mindful activities to get your mind off of it and focus on something else other than that addiction.
Yes, because ritual is very important when coming off of an addiction, because most of the time addictions are built around ritual. So when we teach the ABCDs, for instance, and I don't know if you guys got this part, but we actually do what we call our pillars. So we do like 4 pillars of sanctuary and 4 pillars of foundation. And we do those so that we can be in a place. Oh, here it is. Yeah, perfect. So that we can be in a place of coming out of our own stuff for a little bit, right? We're just going to meet here and do this a little differently together today in this moment, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because it gets overwhelming if we're in active addiction and coming out of that, and then it's like, oh, you got to stop this and you got to do this and you got to do no. Keep it nice and simple. We're going to journey you through the first thing. You're just going to A, B, C, D, and then, read these and see how they feel when we're together. That's all you really have to do. And if you keep doing that consistently every day, you start moving that energy forward. You're not going to get better overnight like that.
Right.
It's
been a progression.
It's been over 12 years for me, but I know at least 7 of those years I have not woke up and thought to myself, I'm going to find drugs today. And that's all, for me, that's all I need. I don't need a big heroic moment.
Right.
I just need to be sober today. And I need to love my life enough to want to be sober today. And that's, for me, and every addict needs to find that goal too. That's an important thing, I think, as well. What do I want from my sobriety? Because it's
how
not
do I want my
just
future to look like.
Yeah, it's about starting a whole new life. For some people, it's about getting their kids back, their lives back. So what do you want from your sobriety? And if you say, well, I don't want to be sober, then that's your right. Right? That's your right. And as a loved one, if your addict who's, or your loved one who's an addict says that to you, respect it. Make your own choices. Keep yourself healthy. Keep it popping and keep it positive. And you can use these same tools too for your recovery if you're the loved one of an addict, because it's all about the mindfulness and the self-regulation. Because this is a paradox of it too, and some people might not like this, but it is a paradox that is very, very real. The loved one of an addict is just as addicted as the addict. They're just addicted to a different drug, which is the attention and that back and forth that they get with their addicted one. And it's not always the easiest thing to put out there, because, it can obviously cause a lot of engagement into the loved one, because they do so much to keep, their addict alive. And that's understandable. And also the reality is, in and of itself, is an addiction.
So
isn't that how you end up with codependencies and relationships within a family unit, where you have different age groups and different boys versus girls, and every single one of them is affected by the addict in the family, and then they start looking for external relief, and so you end up with these codependent things where if the addict slows down, they're like almost urging it on, because that's what they've become accustomed to.
That's what the family has. Yeah. And what you're actually describing is what we call scapegoating. And that's whenever an addict kind of gets made to be the center of everything. And then no matter what's right or wrong, it's always around the addict, which is not healthy for the addict. It's not healthy for the family. And it often keeps the addict addicted.
But I've also seen it where the younger sibling picks up on the behavior and says, okay, I'm going to become an addict too, because he's getting away with that in this family. So I'm going to take on that as well. And there's a domino effect, and you end up with like in my situation, and Barbara was talking about it, similar. My sister's addictions and my niece's addictions affected the two boys that were living in the house, and the husband's addiction. So all of them ended up with some type of addiction in one way or another, and two of them killed themselves. They allowed those addictions and substances to shut their bodies down. They took themselves out that way, leaving the other three behind, to carry on with that same cycle. So it becomes a cycle that is unbroken, but it's codependent in that misery loves company. So until you can part of these types of programs that you've got here to work with individuals on their clearing their own self up.
Yes.
You have to kind of remove them, or they have to want to remove themselves from that other environment. Yes?
At least temporarily, I feel is necessary. Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to be able to be strong enough to sit in the environments for which we engage, right? And I have to take that responsibility on, even if I'm in active addiction, right? If I can't self-regulate in this moment, I need to be able to step back and say that and be honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you, Cor. I'm sorry, Laurie. Go. Sorry.
That's all right. So you were speaking on the 4 fountains of sanctuary. I think that's an interesting concept there, or way to follow that. Can you speak on that?
Yeah. So basically, with the ABCDs, we designed basically a meditation to go with it. So our 4 fountains of sanctuary, this is the mutual understanding. If you come and learn with me, Nick and Jazzy will tell you, I pretty well read these every meeting. So it basically gives a mutual understanding of where we are talking from here as a group, where we're coming from, right? So number 1 is I accept the sanctuary within the present moment. So that's the acknowledge. That's the A. That's being with us, right? Number 2, the accept sanctuary within the still pure voice within me. That's our breathe. I accept sanctuary within the truth of my purpose. That's C. And I accept sanctuary with those capable of navigating my truths, and that's do. So when we talk about the process of ABCD, it works not only on this kind of internal level, but it's also this external acknowledgement of each other, this breathing together, this collaborating together, and this doing together. Because whether we are addicted or not addicted, this is not a solo journey. So building it up at every level is really our priority with Black Raven meditation. Is these really strong but very common sense foundations that we've set.
So not only working with groups that you do you work one-on-one with people?
Yes, I do everything. In person, digital. I travel a lot to people's houses because the work that I do is very intense. The meditative core work is very intense. And I don't like to do it at shop. I don't like people to drive after I do it. So I often will drive to them no matter where they live. And I do mean no matter where they live. And I do that process with them at their home.
That's amazing. You're like an earth angel, Core.
Hey, Core, how often do you help the actual family members or friends or those who, do people come to you for that too, who aren't addicts themselves, but they need the counseling?
Yes,
Because they really want to help. Okay.
Yes, I've been very graced that most of the addicts I worked with, their loved ones have reached out to me. So I feel that's the most effective way to do it. It's kind of like with bereavement, right? Like if we come in together as a group and we can support each other, it's going to be a lot easier than if we're coming in these fragmented segments, right?
Yeah.
Can
Awesome.
you speak on the your next page is the 4 pillars of mutual understanding? Can you speak on that?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, and all of this stuff is kind of based on my studies here, as well as with my Eastern Master in Louisville.
Is this program is something you designed?
Yes, I wrote all of this.
Very good.
This is the core process, right?
Yeah,
It's called the core
I
process.
love that. I love that.
So the 4 pillars of mutual understanding are as follows. We acknowledge the experience of life encourages one to know thyself. So once again, A. So we acknowledge the mind is contained within the consciousness. We acknowledge the mind is a necessary companion, yet an ineffective master. And we acknowledge and take responsibility for our actions through presence. So once again, that goes through the A, B, C, D. And once again, what it offers too is as a group, this is what we're coming in with, right? This is the understanding. You don't have to believe it. I'm not asking you to believe anything. I'm asking you in this space while we are together, let's see what we can do with this. Let's step out of ourselves. Let's build some capacity here together, and let's just keep it popping, keep it pushing.
Wow. Well, this is an amazing program that you put together, and you really have learned through hard knocks how to become not only your own cheerleader and with the support and love that you've had around you, but now you have actually become the cheerleader and the love and support for others to help them reach the goal of being much like yourself and to get past all that. That's absolutely
fantastic.
It is. It's incredible. So if there's someone out there who's watching and you've been paying attention and listening to this and you really want the information, please reach out to Core because she really, really wants to help others, and anything she can do to help you with questions. If you even have questions or you're wondering about something, or if you suspect somebody who has a drug addiction and you're not quite sure, how do you find out if they really are? Because addicts, they're very good at lying, not only to themselves, but to others. And typically,
now, Core,
you're the last one to find out.
Yeah, that's right. We are. And Core, you don't just work alone. You have a team of people that you work with?
Yes, I have a nurse that I work directly with for anything that I'm not 100% sure of, or if people have questions as they go, because as you know, the withdrawal process can take a lot out on the physical body. We do 3-day sit with me's. So say that you or your loved one is ready to start going through that recovery process. The first 3 days are often physically the hardest. Myself and potentially another team member will come and sit with your loved one for up to 3 days, and basically we'll do the chants and the song, all the things to keep them at peace. But more than anything, it's just being in the presence with them. And I mean, I will literally get down on a bed and lay with people and just tell them to yell at me. Yeah, I'll tell them to yell at me, like, whatever you need to do, just get it out of yourself. I'm fine, don't worry about me, just get it out. And the power, the way that can transform a person's life after they've been told for the past 5, 20, 50 years to sit down and shut up and nobody cares. I mean, it just, I can't even explain it. You don't even need to agree to do that. You just have to care a little bit,
You also
first of all,
get,
how does it make you feel? Thank you. How does it make you feel when you've helped somebody, you've actually, sat that 3 days, and I would imagine you would be very exhausted by that whole experience? How does it make you feel?
When I get done with those moments, I feel grateful that I have the capacity to be able to be in those moments and not make it about me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Teresa. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, that's quite all right. In your team configure, I remember talking to you, and I thought it was really cool that people understand this as well about you. You are very well connected with different communities and organizations.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Miss Teresa. I know nothing or no one.
Yes, you do. You have a circle that actually brings clients to you as part of a community outreach, right?
Yes. Yeah, I just recently put up my website, and that's only because I started working with very young children at a library, and the librarian was concerned that the mothers might have problems and have a website. So Miss Jazzy helped me do that because I had no idea. And she just
wonderful.
She's a little
Jazz.
queen. Yes, she is.
So if you go to the website, thank her for it, because I just showed up and said, Jazzy, help me, and she did it.
Adorable tech.
Yeah, well, I've been posting it here in the chat all night, the website.
Yes.
But yes, I've been very blessed. People come to me. I still work with people that the rehab center that I used to work with, they send me people. The old clinics I used to work with, they send me people. My bereavement people send me people.
Yes, that's
Corey, when you support others, the universe supports you. And I think that's what you're seeing here. The more you support others and you help the whole, the more they can do for you. And they help bring those people into your life as well.
And that's a powerful point, because that's, for me, people talk about helping. For me, it's never really been about helping. I've just always known if we're there for God's people, God will be there for us.
Exactly.
And it's really just been that easy.
And that's how spirituality works.
That's right. And you take it on the road because you travel.
Yeah.
To different types of retreat centers. Yes. Where you and your team will work with a group of people, right?
Yes.
And some of these people are awaiting assignment to, or on a waiting list to get into rehab facilities. And some of them have been through the rehab, but they're cycling out and coming back out onto the street. You don't just drop them and say, well, it's been great doing this program with you. See you later. You actually set things up to help them transition.
Yeah, so what I've started doing was, because the medical system does not like people like me coming in and being like, I'll help you. Yeah, of course, come on over. So what I started doing was telling, when people would ask me, I would say, I will do that, but first you have to complete whatever program you're going into successfully.
There you go.
Successfully.
Mhm.
If you don't complete that program successfully, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
but I will not be able to work with you.
Yeah.
And they always say the same thing. I know that you'll know, won't you?
Mhm. Yes, you
Yeah.
would.
That,
So you really need a bumper sticker.
I have all those people by first name phone calls.
Yeah.
I'll know. Yeah.
You need a bumper
but,
sticker that
that's
says,
also
"Have
a-
faith, will travel."
And there you go.
Yeah. And I,
Perfect.
yes, very much that. I hope to
I
get
love
these
that,
two
Laurie.
traveling with me one day. Once I can feed myself regularly, they're coming with me. I
There
feel
you
it.
go. There you go. I love that. Well, listen,
Well,
you guys.
I just wanted to give everybody the big picture because
Mhm.
there's
think
more
we
than
did.
just Core sitting at her desk helping a person. It's it's very professionally handled.
Mhm.
We're a
She's
collective.
scripted
First and
this out.
foremost, we're a collective. Mhm.
Yeah. I'm sorry again. Like Laurie and I, there's like a little delay. So.
That's all right. We're coming to the end of the hour and a half. I like to keep it at the hour and a half. We have just enough time for those final thoughts. So I thought I'd give everybody that opportunity to do that. So I'd like to start with Grandpa Brian, and then we'll make our way up. And then Teresa, you can say what you'd like as well. Okay, final thoughts, Grandpa Brian, and thank you so much, everyone.
Yep. I'm not actually going to talk about addiction. I'm going to talk about what I always talk about this time of the year and in the spring, the equinox. This is a perfect time for you because you have tomorrow's the equinox, so you have an equal daylight and sunlight. Perfect time for you to work in balance and what you need to balance in your life. So, and it could be, addiction, but whatever it is, use this next few days to find the balance that you need, whether it's work, home, or just in general. Bring that balance back into your life so you can be the best version of you. Thank you.
All right, you can be.
Okay.
Cool. Nick, Jasmine.
You want to go first? Go first.
Um, no, you can go first.
Okay. So as I was saying earlier, my outlets is I didn't get to say it, but even though video games wasn't an addiction to me, video games, books, anime, like culture outlets, they taught me a lot of life lessons where I didn't have any role models. You'd be surprised how much media, if you know where to look in the right places, can actually give you a lot of inspiration to find a direction to get yourself out of a sticky situation. So my best advice is instead of falling into addictions that harm you in many ways, discover what resonates with you on a healthy standard and pursue that. Odds are that's a key to how you're going to get out of your bad situations. It worked for me. Might work for you too.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Jasmine. Appreciate you
What
being
I
here.
would like to say is, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't take it so seriously. But at the same time, you still have to have some level of responsibility. It doesn't matter where you start as long as you get up.
I like that.
And then if you fall, you have to get up again and then figure it out differently. You don't want to be insane either. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting something different. So if you fall, get up, try something different. And you'll find a way. If it's gonna go back to Jurassic Park. If there's a will, there's a way. You got to find that will, and you got to find that way. And I honestly believe that those who seek will find, and you will find what you're looking for. I know that there's a big debate out in the psychology world about your environment will dictate who you are, or your parents will dictate who you are, or you're only as strong as your trauma is. It's like, whose ideology you're going to listen to. And at the end of the day, you know what? If you have no one, you have yourself. At the end of the day, you have yourself, and you can pick up, be your own best friend. Figure out who you are and why you are.
You can literally come back from anything. It's all about here. Hermetic principle of mentalism. The all is mind. Everything starts here. So if you want to get your spirituality and your physical aspects of life straight, remember this. No one can influence that but you. You start with that, you get a good foundation, you'll start getting the snowball effect or the domino effect. You'll start getting in the right direction. You just got to believe. You got to believe and put in the work.
Well, thank you. According to Beloved Abstract, you still don't get it. Spirituality isn't about getting anything. It's about losing everything.
I think that means releasing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Spirituality isn't about getting anything. It's about losing everything. You're losing the peeling off those layers. Is that what you mean? Of things that bring you down, that keep you at a lower vibration. I would agree with that statement.
I think, Beloved Abstract, you might want to start your own channel because you seem to really have a grasp on it. Maybe you should consider that.
Yeah.
Core. Final thoughts, my dear. And thank you so much for being with us tonight and sharing all that you did. It takes great strength to share all this kind of information. And really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. At the end of the day, I feel that our life happens in a way that shows us everything we need to know about what it's going to be. And for me, this is that. And I'm with Nick and Jazzy. If you breathe, you bring yourself to every moment, and you show up for yourself every day, whether you want to or not, you will grow the capacity to want something better for yourself. And that's really all it takes, is just wanting something better for yourself and moving towards it every day. It does not, once again, it does not have to be some grandiose display. Get up. If you've gotten up every day for the past 10 years and you didn't brush your hair, getting up this morning and choosing to brush your hair is a win. Give yourself that. Give yourself that. And keep giving yourself that. If it felt good, keep doing it. And someone had said something about losing everything. Yeah, lose everything. But once again, at the end of the day, this is still very real. This experience you and I are having are very real. Those drugs you're using are very real.
Yes.
We have to,
it's visceral.
It's from the standpoint of scripture and sound, and saying the things, it sounds good. And also there's a very real life here. So let's self-honor it and just keep it walking, because everyone is worthy. And there's always hope for anyone out there listening. I have to say this really quick, and it might get a little,
It's okay.
There is hope. There is hope. There is hope. I am living proof. There is hope.
Yes.
I was told that I was going to be a dropout, with living in a trailer with a man that beat me. I am a college educated woman with a 20-year-old daughter who's a supervisor in a medical field, been married for 17 years, and I run my own business that handles addiction every single day.
Wow.
If I can do this, I will pay you $1 million if you can't. That's all and I mean that. I mean that with every bit of essence in me. I am not special. I was born in the dark. I'm not special. You can get out of this. There is a through this for you. And I pray that you know that when you lay your head on that pillow tonight and when you wake up tomorrow. You're worthy.
God bless you, Core. God bless you.
Thank you, Core.
Yes.
That's
Thank you
some
so
truth
much.
and wisdom right there. Yeah. You check out her channel too, folks. She's got some great videos, not just interviewing people, but meditations and Tao readings. She just recently, day before yesterday, made this connection. I really like this connection between loneliness and addiction. In a recent video, she said addiction being the external seeking of the need for self-internal regulation. Using substances to get what we think we need is what we're doing. But instead of seeking, she talked about social connections too, and something came to my mind. Instead of seeking social connections as diversions, hanging out with groups of people and socializing with other people who feel the same way you do or have been through these difficult situations, try living in a space of, instead of external seeking, um, making a supreme connection with self to help you develop your own self sufficiency. And so, with that in mind, I had a reading here that I shared on Facebook a couple of days ago myself, and I thought I'd share it here tonight. It's by an author by the name of Julia Fehrenbacher, and it was posted by Lila Labate, and I call it Making a Home Inside of Self, but here we go. And Laurie has a picture. I am making a home inside of myself, a shelter of kindness where everything is forgiven. Everything is allowed, a quiet patch of sunlight to stretch out without hurry, where all that has been banished and burned is welcome, spoken, listened to, and released. A fiercely friendly place that I can claim is my very own. I'm throwing arms open to the whole of myself, especially the fearful, fault finding, falling apart, unfinished parts, knowing every seed and weed, every drop of rain has made the soil richer. I will light a candle, pour a hot cup of tea, gather around the warmth of my own blazing fire. I will howl if I want to, knowing this flame can burn through any perceived problem, any prescribed perfectionism, any lying limitation, every heavy thing. I'm making a home inside myself where grace blooms in grand and glorious abundance, a shelter of kindness that grows all the truest things. And Cora, this reminded me of you. And I was actually reading it in your voice, in your crinkled nose and your shimmies. And it was like, this reminds me so much of Cora. But it also spoke deeply to my own heart, having been through this process myself for other types of things. But thank you for what you bring to the table and for bringing this and being willing to spend time with us on this. And we hope others who are listening have valued from it in some way or another. But do reach out to Black Raven, and all of her contact information is in our YouTube description page.
You bet.
Back to you, Laurie. And thank you,
Yep.
panelists.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Greatly appreciate your time and energy, and glad you showed up. Thank you, everyone in chat, for all your comments, and really appreciate that. Thank you to all who will view this in the future. We hope that this gave you some form of a little bit of an education, some insight into it, and we just hope and pray that if you are going through a situation like this, that you get the help you need, and there are people out there who are willing and able to help you. All right.
And
Thanks
I
again.
do want a special thanks to Jackie, Jay, and Barbara for opening up so much in the chat room.
Yes.
And sharing your wisdom and experience as well.
Yes.
Thank you for coming and spending time with us tonight.
Absolutely.
Sorry, just wanted to say hi.
We greatly appreciate you all.
Corey,
all right.
Corey?
Yes, Corey.
If Barbara's still on the chat, dear, if you reach out to me, it's on the universe.
There you go. There you go. Love that. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. Have a wonderful weekend. Do something good for yourself and others. Much love to all of you, and peace be with you.